hey!
A security guard blocked the entrance to the Covington Grand Hotel. His gaze fell upon the black woman as if she were trash at his feet.
Get out. People like you don't belong here.
I'm here too.
I don't care. You're making the whole lobby stink.
Then Grant Taylor appeared, the regional manager. His face contorted with disgust. The same old story. He snatched a filthy rag from the cleaning cart and threw it straight at her face.
Go mop the floor. That's the only reason you're here.
She looked at the stain on her coat, calm.
What's your full name?
He laughed.
Grant Taylor. Darling, go back to the hole you crawled out of.
A few seconds later, his face turned pale. The kind of pale that signals everything is about to collapse. Let me take you back to that morning. 6 hours before the lobby incident. Before the rag. Before the sneer. Before Grant Taylor's world caved in. Adrienne Walker woke up at 5:14 a.m. No alarm. She never needed one. Her townhouse sat on a quiet street in Buckhead, Atlanta. Not a mansion, not a penthouse. A 3-bedroom brick townhouse with a small garden out front and a cracked step she kept meaning to fix. The neighbors thought she was an accountant. She wasn't. Adrienne Walker was the CEO and founder of Crestline Capital Holdings, a private equity firm worth $2.3 billion. She owned 14 luxury hotels, 6 commercial properties, a venture capital arm that backed startups most people hadn't heard of yet. But this morning, she looked like nobody special. She poured black coffee into a chipped mug. Steam curled up and vanished. On the kitchen counter, her tablet glowed with a report she'd read 3 times already. Employee satisfaction scores from the Covington Grand. The numbers were ugly. Morale had cratered. Turnover among staff of color had tripled in 18 months. 3 discrimination complaints, all filed by Black or Latino employees, all closed. Insufficient evidence. Every single time. Adrienne took a slow sip. The coffee was bitter. So were the numbers. On the wall behind her hung a framed photograph, black and white. A woman in a hotel uniform, hair pinned tight, pushing a linen cart down a long hallway. Her grandmother, Dorothy Walker. 31 years cleaning rooms at a hotel where she wasn't allowed to use the front entrance. Next to the photo, a degree from Howard University. Next to that, a sticky note in Adrienne's own handwriting. They won't always see you. Make sure you see them. She finished her coffee, pulled on a plain navy blazer, flat shoes, no jewelry, no designer label. She wanted to look like exactly what Grant Taylor would dismiss. A nobody. That was the point. Adrienne didn't send assistants for surprise inspections. She went herself, unannounced, unrecognized. She wanted to see how her buildings treated the people at the bottom, because that told her everything about the people at the top. Today, the Covington Grand would show her the truth. Now let's talk about the hotel. The Covington Grand sat on Peachtree Street in the heart of downtown Atlanta. 22 floors of glass and limestone. The kind of place where a single night cost more than a week's rent in most neighborhoods. The lobby smelled of white lilies and leather. Marble floors so polished you could see your reflection. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling like frozen rain. Soft jazz drifted from hidden speakers. Everything about this place whispered money. But behind the polish, something was rotting. If you watched closely, really closely, you'd see it. The way the black bellhop flinched when a supervisor walked past. The way Terrence Adams, the young front desk clerk, smiled wide at guests but went stiff the moment he heard Grant Taylor's voice around the corner. The way Denise Moore pushed her housekeeping cart with her eyes locked on the floor, never looking up, never making eye contact. The white staff laughed freely, leaned on counters, chatted with each other between tasks. The staff of color moved like ghosts, quick, quiet, invisible on purpose. That divide wasn't an accident. It was managed. And the man who managed it arrived at 7:45 a.m. sharp. Grant Taylor pulled his silver BMW into the spot marked Manager. He checked his teeth in the rearview mirror, straightened his tie, walked through the front entrance like he owned the building. He didn't. First thing he did, morning huddle. Staff lined up in the service hallway. Grant scanned the faces and started pointing. Adams, front desk. Brennan, concierge. Collins, guest relations. All white. Moore, third floor housekeeping. Rivera, laundry. Jenkins, kitchen scrub. All black and Latino. Every single day. Same pattern. Then he turned to Denise. She'd been promoted to guest services 2 months ago. She'd earned it. Best review scores on the floor. Moore, you're back on housekeeping, starting today. Denise's face crumbled. Sir, I was assigned to guest. Presentation matters, Denise. Our guests expect a certain standard. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone in that hallway understood exactly what he meant. Denise swallowed hard, picked up her cart, and disappeared down the corridor without another word. That was 8 a.m. By noon, Grant Taylor would meet Adrian Walker. He just didn't know it yet. Adrian Walker stepped out of a cab at 11:47 a.m. No town car, no driver holding a sign. Just a yellow taxi that pulled away before she even reached the curb. She stood on the sidewalk for a moment, looked up at the Covington Grand, 22 floors of glass catching the midday sun. The gold lettering above the entrance gleamed. A doorman in a black coat held the door for a white couple carrying shopping bags. He smiled at them, said, "Welcome back, Mr. and Mrs. Pemberton." Adrian walked toward the same door. The doorman's smile vanished. He didn't hold the door. He didn't greet her. He looked past her like she was part of the sidewalk. She pulled the door open herself. The cold air hit her face, that expensive, over-air-conditioned chill that luxury hotels pump through their lobbies. It smelled of white lilies and floor wax. The jazz was still playing. The chandelier still glittered. She stepped inside and paused, not because she was nervous, because she was watching. To her left, a white woman in yoga clothes crossed the lobby with a smoothie. No one stopped her. No one asked for her room key. To her right, a black bellhop hauled 3 oversized suitcases toward the elevator. A supervisor passing by snapped, "Pick up the pace, Jenkins. Guests are waiting." No please. No eye contact. Adrian noted it, stored it. She walked toward the front desk. Her flat shoes made no sound on the marble. Her blazer was still plain. Her face was still unknown. Terrence Adams stood behind the counter. 22 years old, crisp uniform, name tag perfectly straight. He saw her approaching and his customer smile appeared, the one he'd practiced until it stopped reaching his eyes. "Good afternoon, ma'am. Checking in?" "No," Adrian said. "Just visiting today. I had a few questions about the hotel." Terrence tilted his head. "Sure. What kind of questions?" "How long have you worked here?" "About 14 months. "Do you enjoy it?" Something flickered behind his eyes, a door opening half an inch, then slamming shut. "It's fine," he said. "It's a good job." His mouth said, "Fine." His jaw said something else. Adrian recognized that look. The look of someone who'd learned to swallow things whole without chewing. "Could I speak with the manager on duty?" she asked. Terrence hesitated. His fingers hovered over the radio on the counter. "Can I ask what it's regarding?" "Operations," she said simply. He picked up the radio, pressed the button. "Mr. Taylor, there's a visitor at the front desk asking to speak with you. Says it's about operations." The radio crackled. A voice came through, sharp, annoyed, already bothered. "Operations? Who is it?" "She didn't give a name, sir." A pause. A sigh, loud enough to hear through the static. "Fine, I'm coming down." Terrence set the radio down. He didn't look at Adrian. He looked at the counter. "He'll be right down," he said quietly. And then, almost under his breath, "Good luck." Adrian heard it. She didn't respond, but she filed it away with everything else. 2 minutes later, the elevator doors opened. Grant Taylor stepped out. He walked the way men walk when they believe every room belongs to them. Shoulders wide, chin lifted, eyes scanning for problems to fix or people to correct. His shoes clicked on the marble, hard, deliberate, a sound designed to announce authority. He saw Adrian standing at the front desk, a black woman. No badge, no luggage, no designer handbag, no visible reason in his mind to be there. He didn't say hello. "Can I help you?" The question wasn't a question. It was a wall. "I'd like to talk about how your operations run here," Adrian said. "Staffing structure, guest services, employee satisfaction." Grant's eyebrows rose, then fell. Then something darker settled across his face. Amusement. The kind of amusement that comes from looking down. "Employee satisfaction." He repeated it slowly, like she'd spoken a foreign language. "And you are—" "Someone with questions." "Right." He folded his arms. "Ma'am, I don't know who sent you or what agency you think you represent, but operations at this hotel are handled internally. We don't take walk-ins, especially not—" He stopped himself, smiled. "We don't take walk-ins." The word he swallowed hung in the air like smoke. Everyone nearby heard the shape of it. "Especially not what?" Adrian asked. Calm, level. "Especially not without an appointment." His smile didn't move. "So if you don't have a reservation and you're not a guest, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "I'd like to see the staffing roster for this quarter," Adrian said. As if he hadn't spoken, Grant laughed. Not a polite laugh, a laugh that echoed off the marble. Two guests at a nearby sofa looked up from their phones. "Staffing roster? Lady, that's way above your pay grade. You don't just walk in off the street and start asking for internal documents." He stepped closer, lowered his voice, but not enough. "Who do you think you are?" Adrian held his gaze. "Someone you should probably speak to with a little more respect." That was the wrong thing to say to a man like Grant Taylor. Not because it was untrue, because men like Grant don't hear corrections. They hear challenges. His jaw tightened, the amusement drained from his face. What replaced it was colder. "Respect?" He said the word like it tasted bad. "You want respect? Earn it. Walk into my hotel with no name, no appointment, no ID, dressed like—" He gestured at her blazer. The stain from the rag was still faintly visible. "Like that? And you want me to show you the books?" He turned to the front desk. Adams, radio security. Terrence's hand froze above the radio. His eyes darted to Adrian, then back to Grant. His throat moved as he swallowed. Now, Adams. Terrence pressed the button. Security to the front desk, please. Adrian didn't move, didn't shift her weight, didn't reach for her phone. She stood the way a person stands when they know something no one else in the room knows yet. James Sullivan arrived in under a minute, head of security, a tall white man with a buzz cut and an earpiece. He looked at Adrian, then at Grant. What's the situation? This woman is loitering, Grant said. She's not a guest. She has no appointment. She's asking for confidential documents and refusing to leave. I want her escorted out. James looked at Adrian. She was calm, hands at her sides, not raising her voice, not causing a scene. Ma'am, James said carefully, is there a problem? No problem, Adrian said. I asked to see the manager. I asked reasonable questions. And now I'm being removed because he doesn't like the questions, or the person asking them. Grant cut in before James could respond. Don't make this into something it's not. You're trespassing. Simple as that. I walked through the front door of a public hotel lobby, Adrian said. That's not trespassing. Grant stepped forward, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Sharp, expensive, too much of it. He spoke low, but everyone within 10 feet heard every word. Let me make something crystal clear. I don't know who you think you are, but you don't walk into my property and tell me how to run things. This isn't a community center. Community center. The words landed like a slap. Terrence's head dropped. A black housekeeper passing through the lobby slowed her steps. A white guest at the concierge desk looked away, uncomfortable. Everyone understood what he meant. Grant straightened his tie, turned to James. Get her out. If she resists, call the police. He pulled out his phone, started dialing. Adrian reached into her pocket and pulled out her own phone. She pressed a single number on speed dial, held it to her ear. 1 ring. 2. A voice answered. Yes, Adrian said quietly. Bring the files. Now. She hung up, looked at Grant. You might want to hold off on that call, she said. Grant smirked. Too late. He put the phone to his ear. Yes, 911? I'd like to report a trespassing individual at the Covington Grand Hotel. A black female, mid-40s, no identification, refusing to leave. She's becoming increasingly aggressive. Adrian stood perfectly still, arms at her sides, face neutral. The least aggressive person in the building. Grant hung up and smiled. Police are on their way. Last chance to walk out on your own. Adrian didn't walk out. She didn't move at all. 2 police cruisers pulled up to the Covington Grand within 6 minutes. Red and blue lights bounced off the glass entrance. The soft jazz inside the lobby suddenly felt obscene, like elevator music playing during a car crash. Officer Coleman walked in first, mid-30s, calm face, hand resting on his belt out of habit, not aggression. His partner, Officer Davis, was different. Tight jaw, stiff shoulders, the kind of cop who decided who was guilty before asking a single question. Grant met them at the door like a host greeting VIPs. Officers, thank you for coming. I appreciate the quick response. He lowered his voice, just enough to sound concerned. The individual in question is the woman standing by the front desk. She forced her way into the lobby, harassed my staff, and has been demanding access to confidential company documents. He paused, let the word land. She's become aggressive. Frankly, I'm worried about the safety of our guests. Officer Coleman looked across the lobby at Adrian. She stood exactly where she'd been for the last 15 minutes. Arms at her sides, face neutral, still as a statue. "That woman?" Coleman asked. "Don't let the calm act fool you," Grant said. "She's been confrontational since she walked in. My staff feel unsafe. My guests feel uncomfortable. This kind of person doesn't just wander into a place like this without a reason." This kind of person. Coleman nodded slowly, not agreeing, processing. He walked toward Adrian. Davis followed, closer, tighter, already coiled. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Coleman. We received a report of trespassing and aggressive behavior. Can I see some identification?" Adrian reached into her blazer pocket. Slowly, deliberately. She pulled out a driver's license and held it out. Coleman took it, read it. Nothing unusual. A valid Georgia license, an address in Buckhead. He handed it back. "Thank you. Can you tell me why you're here today?" "I came to ask questions about hotel operations," Adrian said. "Staffing, employee treatment. I walked through the front entrance of a public lobby. I raised my voice 0 times. I touched no one." "She's lying," Grant called from behind the officers. He'd followed them, couldn't help himself. "She was belligerent from the moment she stepped through that door. Ask my front desk clerk. Ask him." Coleman glanced at Terrence behind the counter. "Sir, did this woman threaten anyone? Or become aggressive?" Terrence's mouth opened. His eyes flicked to Grant. The look Grant gave him was unmistakable. A silent command wrapped in a warning. "Answer carefully." Terrence swallowed, looked down at the counter, then back at Coleman. She was calm," he said quietly, almost a whisper. "She just asked questions." Grant's neck flushed red. "Adams, that's not what happened, and you know it. Don't make me have a conversation with you later about loyalty." "Sir, I need you to step back," Coleman said to Grant, firm but measured. But Davis had already made up his mind. He stepped toward Adrian, closer than necessary. Close enough for her to see the coffee stain on his collar. "Ma'am, regardless of what happened, the property manager has asked you to leave. If you refuse, that's trespassing under Georgia law. We can resolve this peacefully, or we can do it the hard way. Your choice." "Am I being detained?" Adrian asked. Davis hesitated. "We're trying to sort this out." "Then I'll wait," Adrian said. "Someone is on their way. She'll be here in a few minutes. I'd like to stay until she arrives." "I don't care who's coming," Grant snapped from behind them. "This is my hotel. I make the decisions here. Officers, remove her. Now." Davis reached for Adrian's arm. Not a grab, a grip. His fingers closed around her elbow, firm, controlling. The kind of touch designed to move a body, whether it wants to move or not. Adrian looked down at his hand, then up at him. "You're going to want to let go," she said. Not a threat, a fact. "Ma'am, I'm cooperating. I'm not resisting. I'm not raising my voice. You are putting your hands on me in a public lobby with cameras recording from 4 angles." Davis looked up. She was right. Security cameras in every corner. And worse, 4 guests had their phones out, recording. A woman in a business suit near the elevator. A young man at the coffee bar. An elderly couple on the sofa. A teenager by the entrance, phone held low, lens pointed straight at Davis's hand on Adrian's arm. Davis released her elbow, stepped back half a step. But he didn't apologize. His jaw just tightened another notch. Grant was pacing now, arms crossed, jaw grinding. He wasn't used to this, a situation he couldn't bully into submission. Then Denise Moore walked through the lobby. She came from the service hallway carrying a stack of fresh white towels, perfectly folded, perfectly stacked. She was headed toward the elevator. A guest on the second floor had requested extras 20 minutes ago. She tried to pass quickly, head down, shoulders small, invisible. The way she'd trained herself to move through this building. Don't be seen. Don't be heard. Don't give them a reason. Grant saw her, and like a dog that bites the nearest hand when it's backed into a corner, he turned every ounce of his frustration on the easiest target in the room. More! Denise stopped. The towels trembled in her arms. What the hell are you doing on this floor? I told you, housekeeping stays below the third floor during peak hours. Are you stupid? How many times do I have to say the same thing to you people? You people. A guest on the second floor requested, "Shut your mouth. I didn't ask for an excuse." Grant stepped toward her. His voice didn't rise. It dropped. Cold, steady. The controlled volume of a man who knows no one in the room will stop him. Every single day, Denise. Every single day I have to babysit you. You can't follow basic instructions. You can't stay where you belong. You're not smart enough for guest services. You're barely smart enough for this. He pointed at the towels. And you can't even do that right. He said it in front of the officers, in front of the guests, in front of the recording phones, in front of the entire staff watching from doorways and corners and half-open service doors. You're written up. Again. Third time this quarter. One more strike and you're done. I'll make sure you never work in a hotel in this city again. He stepped closer, leaned in, close enough that Denise could feel his breath on her forehead. Now get out of my sight before I change my mind and fire you right here. Denise turned, walked toward the service hallway. Her shoes squeaked softly on the marble, the only sound in the lobby. The towels shook in her arms. A single tear broke free and ran down her cheek. She wiped it with her shoulder without stopping. She didn't look back. She couldn't afford to. The lobby was dead silent. The jazz kept playing, but no one heard it. Adrian watched Denise disappear around the corner. Her jaw tightened. A muscle flickered near her temple. Her fingers curled at her sides, not into fists, into something quieter, something more controlled. She saw her grandmother, Dorothy Walker, pushing that linen cart down an endless hallway in 1973. Head down, mouth shut. 31 years of swallowed words. This was the same hallway. Different decade. Same silence. The lobby hummed with tension thick enough to taste. Metallic. Electric. Like the air before a thunderstorm cracks the sky wide open. A black SUV pulled up outside. Through the glass entrance, Adrian saw it. She didn't react. Didn't smile. Didn't exhale. But something in her posture shifted. The way a chess player straightens when the final piece is in position. The SUV door opened. A woman stepped out. Mid-50s. Charcoal suit sharp enough to cut glass. Black heels striking pavement like a judge's gavel. She carried a leather briefcase in her left hand and a manila folder in her right. Evelyn Cross, Chief Legal Counsel of Crestline Capital Holdings. She walked through the front entrance without slowing. The doorman scrambled to hold the door. Instinct, maybe. Something about the way she moved told you to step aside or get run over. Evelyn crossed the lobby in a straight line. She didn't acknowledge Grant. didn't glance at the officers, didn't notice the phones still recording. She stopped in front of Adrian, opened the briefcase, pulled out a second folder, handed both over. A single nod between them. No words needed. Grant stared. "Who the hell are you?" Evelyn didn't look at him. She reached into her jacket and produced a business card, handed it to Officer Coleman. Coleman read it. His lips parted. His eyes moved from the card to Adrian, then back to the card. He turned to Davis. "Stand down," barely above a whisper. Davis frowned. "What?" Coleman didn't repeat himself. He stepped back, hands off his belt, shoulders dropped. The posture of a man who just realized he was standing on the wrong side of the room. Grant saw the shift. He saw the officers retreat. He saw Evelyn standing beside Adrian like a loaded weapon with the safety clicked off. The smugness drained from his face. Slowly. The way color leaves a man's skin right before he faints. For the first time in years, Grant Taylor felt something he didn't recognize. Fear. Adrian opened the folder. She didn't rush, didn't fumble. She opened it the way a surgeon opens a scalpel kit. Calm, precise, already knowing exactly what she was going to cut. Inside was a single laminated document, the corporate ownership charter for the Covington Grand Hotel. At the top, in bold black letters, Crestline Capital Holdings, Property Ownership Registry. And beneath that, a name. Adrian Walker, CEO and Managing Partner. She held it up. Not high, not dramatic, just enough for Grant to read it. He didn't read it at first. His eyes were still bouncing between Evelyn and the officers, trying to calculate what had gone wrong. Then his gaze landed on the document, on the letterhead, on the name. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Adrian spoke, not loudly. She didn't need volume. The lobby was already silent enough to hear a heartbeat.
"Mr. Taylor, my name is Adrian Walker. I am the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Crestline Capital Holdings."
She let that sentence breathe. Let it fill the room. Let it reach every corner, every doorway, every phone still recording. Crestline Capital is the parent company that owns this hotel and the 13 others in our portfolio. I approved the renovation budget you overspent last quarter. I signed off on the staffing expansion you requested in January. And every 2 weeks, when you deposit your paycheck, my signature is on the authorization. She lowered the document, looked Grant dead in the eyes. "I am the woman you told to mop your floors." Silence. Not the uncomfortable kind from before. A different species of silence. The kind that falls after a detonation, when the dust hasn't settled yet, and no one knows what's left standing. Grant Taylor's face drained, not slowly this time, all at once, like someone pulled a plug behind his eyes and everything human poured out. What remained was gray, hollow. The face of a man watching his entire life replay and fast forward, and realizing every frame was evidence. His lips moved. Sounds came out. Not words. Fragments. That's not... I didn't... Adrian didn't wait for him to assemble a sentence. "In the last 18 months, 3 employees of color at this property filed formal discrimination complaints. All 3 were closed. Insufficient evidence. Every single time." She opened the second folder, pulled out a printed page, held it up. "I have the intake reports. I have the dismissal memos. Your name is on every one of them. Not as a witness, as the subject." Grant's mouth closed, opened again, closed. I came here today to see for myself whether those complaints had merit. I didn't announce my visit. I didn't wear a name tag. I didn't bring security or an entourage. I wanted to see what happens in this building when no one important is watching. She paused, took one step closer. And here's what I saw. Her voice didn't waver. It was steady and surgical, every word placed like a brick. I saw a security guard call me garbage before I made it through the door. I saw you throw a dirty rag in my face. I saw you tell me to get on my knees and scrub. I heard you call the police and describe me as aggressive while I stood still with my arms at my sides. I watched an officer put his hands on me because you lied. And then I watched you publicly humiliate a housekeeper in front of this entire lobby for the crime of delivering towels to a guest. She glanced toward the service hallway where Denise had disappeared, then back at Grant. You didn't just disrespect me, Mr. Taylor. You showed me exactly how you run this building. You showed every person in this lobby. And you showed those cameras. She pointed upward. 4 security cameras, red lights blinking. And those phones. She gestured toward the guests still holding up their devices. No one had stopped recording. No one was going to. Grant's knees buckled. Not enough to fall, just enough to sway. A tiny, almost invisible tremor that started in his legs and crawled upward. His hand reached for the front desk counter. Missed. Reached again. Found it. Gripped the edge like a man gripping the side of a lifeboat. Miss Walker, please, I had no idea who you...
That's the problem, Adrian said. You had no idea who I was, so you treated me like I was nothing. The question is, how many other people have you treated that way? People who didn't have a legal team waiting in an SUV outside. Grant opened his mouth. Adrian raised one finger. Just one. He closed it. She turned to Evelyn Cross. A single nod. Evelyn stepped forward. From her briefcase, she produced a second document, crisp, white, already bearing 2 signatures at the bottom. Adrian Walker, CEO. Sandra Coleman, VP of Human Resources. A termination letter. Evelyn held it out to Grant. He didn't take it. She placed it on the counter in front of him. Mr. Taylor, Adrian said, your employment with Crestline Capital Holdings is terminated, effective immediately. Your access credentials have been deactivated. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. You have 15 minutes. Grant stared at the letter on the counter, his name typed neatly at the top. His title, Regional Operations Manager, already in the past tense. His legs finally gave. Not a collapse, not a fall, just a slow, quiet folding, like a man who'd been standing on ice and finally heard the crack. Nobody moved. For 5 full seconds, the only sound in the lobby was a saxophone solo drifting from the hidden speakers, smooth and warm, completely absurd against the wreckage unfolding at the front desk. Grant Taylor gripped the counter with both hands, knuckles white, face whiter. The termination letter sat in front of him like a headstone with his name already carved in. Then he started talking. Ms. Walker, please. His voice cracked. The arrogance was gone. What came out was raw and desperate. A man bailing water from a sinking boat with his bare hands. 8 years. I've given everything to this property. The reviews, the occupancy rate, the renovations. That was all me. Adrian didn't blink. And the discrimination complaints, those were all you too. Those were misunderstandings. I'm not a racist.
I don't see color. You threw a rag at my face, Mr. Taylor. His mouth opened, closed. I didn't know who you... So you treated me like dirt. That's not a defense. That's a confession. Grant switched tactics. Denial to bargaining. His eyes darted around the lobby, searching for anyone who might throw him a rope. I'll take sensitivity training. I'll apologize to every employee. Demote me. Move me to another property. Just don't end it like this. Not in front of everyone. He looked around. The staff. The guests. The phones recording from 6 angles. Please. I have a family. A mortgage. My daughter's in college. Denise Moore has a family too, Adrian said. Grant stopped. Single mother, 2 kids, works doubles 3 times a week, and you screamed at her in front of everyone for delivering towels, called her stupid, threatened to destroy her career. Adrian's voice dropped, lower, quieter, more dangerous. The 3 employees who filed complaints have families too. One quit because she couldn't take it anymore. Another requested a transfer, denied by you. The 3rd filed a 2nd complaint and got written up for insubordination the same week, by you. She placed 3 printed sheets on the counter, complaint intake forms, side by side. You didn't just discriminate, Mr. Taylor. You punished them for speaking up. You buried their complaints and made their lives worse for filing them. That's not a misunderstanding. That's retaliation. Grant had nothing left. No angle. No argument. He stood at the counter like a man at the edge of a cliff, realizing there was no ledge below. Evelyn Cross stepped forward, voice clipped and precise. Mr. Taylor, Crestline's legal team will conduct a full review of your tenure. All staffing decisions, all complaint handling, all communications. Additionally, we're referring your 911 call to the district attorney. Filing a false police report is a misdemeanor in Georgia. You described Ms. Walker as aggressive, while she stood motionless. That's on the hotel's cameras and the officer's body cameras. She paused. You may want to retain an attorney. Grant's chin dropped to his chest. His shoulders folded inward. He looked like an empty suit, with no one left inside. James Sullivan stepped forward. He'd been standing against the wall for 10 minutes, watching, his face cycling through confusion and slow-dawning horror. Now he had a job to do. Mr. Taylor, I'll walk you to your office. 15 minutes. Grant didn't argue. He peeled his hands off the counter, one finger at a time, picked up the termination letter, folded it, slid it into his jacket. He walked toward the elevator, James beside him, not touching, just walking, the way you walk beside someone at a funeral. Grant passed through the lobby one last time, past Terrence, who looked away, past the guests, who looked down, past the spot where the filthy rag had hit Adrian's blazer and fallen to the marble. The rag was still there. Nobody had picked it up. The elevator doors opened. Grant stepped inside. Turned around. His eyes found Adrian across the lobby. She was already looking somewhere else. The doors closed. The jazz kept playing. Adrian turned to face the staff, the ones still standing in doorways, behind counters, at the edges of the room. She spoke simply. What happened here today should never have happened. Not to me, not to Denise, not to any of you. Every buried complaint will be reopened. Every reassignment will be audited. She looked toward the service hallway. Someone find Denise Moore. Tell her she's reinstated to guest services. Effective now. Terrence exhaled, long and shaky, like he'd been holding his breath for 14 months. From somewhere near the elevator, a single pair of hands started clapping. Then another. Then the whole lobby. The video hit the internet at 4:17 p.m. that same afternoon. A guest named Rachel Brennan posted her recording to Twitter with a single caption. Watched a hotel manager throw a dirty rag at a black woman and tell her to scrub floors. Turned out, she was the CEO. Watch this man's face when he finds out. By 6 p.m., 200,000 views. By midnight, 1.2 million. By the following afternoon, 4 million, and climbing faster than the platform could track. The clip started with Grant hurling the rag, the wet slap of fabric hitting Adrian's blazer. Every word crystal clear. Get down and scrub. Only reason people like you enter this building. No room for spin. No room for taken out of context. No room for, that's not what I meant. A second clip surfaced, filmed by the teenager near the entrance. Grant screaming at Denise, calling her stupid, threatening to end her career, leaning into her face. The kid's hands trembled while he filmed, but the audio was razor sharp. Then a third. Officer Davis gripping Adrian's arm, her calm voice cutting through the tension, his hand releasing. 10 seconds on loop, played millions of times across every platform. Headlines came like dominoes falling. CNN. Hotel manager throws rag at black woman. Doesn't know she's his CEO. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Caught on camera. Racial profiling at luxury Atlanta hotel. The Root. He told her to mop floors. She owned the building. By Wednesday, Grant Taylor was the #1 trending topic in the United States. He deleted every social media account, scrubbed his digital footprint raw. It didn't matter. Screenshots traveled faster than his fingers ever could. His photo from a hospitality conference became a meme captioned, "Go mop floors energy." The internet had found its villain, and it was not letting go. But Adrian didn't care about the internet. She cared about the evidence. Crestline Capital launched a full internal investigation the next morning. Adrian appointed an independent panel, 3 outside attorneys, 1 HR specialist, a workplace equity consultant, no internal staff, no one who owed Grant a favor, no one with a reason to look away. The findings came back in 11 days, worse than anyone expected. Grant had been running a 2-tier system for at least 3 years. Black and Latino employees were systematically funneled into low-visibility, low-tip positions. Housekeeping, laundry, kitchen, loading dock. White employees received concierge, guest relations, front desk, event coordination. Not random, not accidental. Unwritten policy, enforced daily. In 3 years, Grant recommended 14 employees for promotion. 13 were white. Performance reviews told the same ugly story. Staff of color received consistently lower scores, even when their guest satisfaction ratings outperformed white colleagues. Denise Moore's file was the most damning. 3 glowing guest reviews in a single month, followed by a rating of needs improvement and an immediate demotion. Signed by Grant Taylor. Then the emails surfaced. Grant describing a black applicant as not client-facing material. Recommending against promoting a Latina supervisor because she wouldn't fit the brand. And the message that made national news. A forwarded photo of his all-white front desk team with the subject line, "Finally got the lobby looking right." looking right. 11 former employees came forward after the video went viral. People who'd quit the Covington Grand rather than keep fighting a system built to crush them. Different names, different dates, same treatment, same man, same silence from above. Crestline referred everything to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The EEOC opened a formal investigation within a week. Then the lawsuits hit. 9 former and current employees filed a class action against Grant Taylor personally. Racial discrimination, hostile work environment, retaliatory conduct. Over 40 documented incidents spanning 3 years. Denied promotions, racial slurs dressed up as jokes, public humiliation in front of guests, punitive scheduling, staff of color assigned overnight and holiday shifts at double the rate of white employees. Adrian made a decision that surprised the legal world. Crestline did not shield Grant. The company cooperated fully with the EEOC and stated publicly that Grant's actions were conducted in direct violation of corporate policy. They didn't protect him. They opened the door and let the consequences walk right in. The class action settled 6 months later, $1.8 million. Grant was personally liable for a significant portion, a debt that would shadow him for years. But the money wasn't the real punishment. The criminal charges were. The Fulton County District Attorney reviewed Grant's 911 call alongside the hotel's security footage and the officer's body cameras. Grant described Adrian as aggressive while she stood motionless, described her forcing her way in when cameras showed her walking calmly through a public entrance. False police report, misdemeanor under Georgia law, up to 12 months in jail. Grant pleaded no contest, 6 months probation, 200 hours community service, a permanent criminal record that would follow him into every job application, every background check, every Google search of his name for the rest of his life. His hospitality career was finished. No chain would touch him. His name became a cautionary tale, the kind shown in corporate training videos under the heading, "What Not to Do." But Adrian didn't just cut out the rot. She rebuilt from the roots. Reforms rolled out across all 14 Crestline properties. Mandatory bias training, not the checkbox kind, but intensive quarterly sessions led by outside facilitators. Anonymous complaint hotlines managed by independent third parties. Annual equity audits examining promotion rates, pay gaps, and staffing patterns by race and gender, and a $500,000 scholarship fund for hospitality workers of color, named after Dorothy Walker, Adrian's grandmother, the woman who cleaned hotel rooms for 31 years and never once walked through the front door. Denise Moore was promoted, not reinstated, promoted. Assistant front desk manager, the role she'd applied for twice and been denied both times under Grant. She accepted on a Tuesday morning, cried in the break room afterward. Not sadness, relief. The kind of relief that comes when someone finally says out loud what you've known in your bones for years. It wasn't your fault. Terrence Adams entered Crestline's leadership program. Within a year, he became the youngest front desk supervisor in the Covington Grand's history. The boy who once whispered, "Good luck," to a stranger at the front desk, now ran that front desk himself. Employee satisfaction scores, once the lowest in Crestline's portfolio, climbed to second highest within 12 months. Turned out the building was never the problem. The man running it was. So where are they now? Adrian Walker still runs Crestline Capital Holdings, still worth $2.3 billion, still expanding, 2 more hotels added last year. A mixed-use development breaking ground in Charlotte. A boutique resort deal closed in Savannah. But success didn't change her. Not even a little. She still does unannounced visits. Still shows up in a plain blazer and flat shoes. No entourage. No name tag. She walks through lobbies and watches how doormen greet a black family versus a white one. Sits in hotel restaurants and listens to how supervisors talk to staff when they think no one important is around. Rides service elevators. Counts the faces. Notes who looks relaxed. Notes who looks afraid. Last month, she visited a Crestline property in Nashville. Walked in wearing jeans and a gray sweater. A bellhop greeted her before she made it 3 steps inside. Young kid. Bright smile. Held the door without hesitation. "Welcome, ma'am. Can I help you with anything today?" No suspicion. No sizing up. No second look at her skin. She didn't tell him who she was. She didn't need to. Because that's the whole point. You shouldn't need to own the building to deserve a hello. She's spoken at 1 national conference on workplace equity since the incident. 12-minute keynote. Ended with a single sentence. The way you treat the person you think doesn't matter tells the world exactly who you are. Standing ovation. 4 minutes long. Denise Moore is thriving 6 months after the incident. Promoted again. Guest Relations Manager for the entire Covington Grand. Not a sympathy promotion. She earned it. Highest guest satisfaction scores on the floor. Team retention rate double the industry average. 9 people under her now. She trains every new hire personally. Same words. Every time. First day. You belong here. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. When reporters asked about that day, the towels, the tears, the humiliation, she paused a long time before answering. "I thought nobody saw me," she said. 3 years believing I was invisible. That no matter how hard I worked, I'd always just be the woman with the cart. The one who wasn't supposed to be above the 3rd floor. She looked into the camera. Turns out, the one person who mattered was standing right there. And she didn't look away. Terrence Adams completed Crestline's leadership program at the top of his cohort. Front desk supervisor now, 23 years old. Running the same desk where he once whispered, "Good luck," to a stranger he was too afraid to defend. Nobody whispers at that desk anymore. Grant Taylor has not worked in hospitality since. Public records show he relocated to a different state. Warehouse logistics job. No public statement, no apology, no interview. His name still auto-completes on Google with Mop Floors CEO video. Some people rebuild after a fall like that. Some people learn. Grant Taylor just vanished. The Covington Grand became something no one predicted. A model. Industry publications cited its turnaround as a case study in cultural transformation. Employee retention doubled. Guest satisfaction hit an all-time high. The Dorothy Walker Scholarship Fund awarded its first 3 grants to housekeepers pursuing hospitality degrees. The building didn't change. The chandelier still hung like frozen rain. The marble still gleamed, but the air was different. You felt it the second you walked through those glass doors. Something no renovation budget could buy. Respect. Because here's the truth nobody wants to sit with. Justice doesn't always arrive in a black SUV with a legal team and a signed termination letter. Most of the time, it doesn't arrive at all. The Grant Taylors of the world keep their titles, keep their offices, keep making people feel small in hallways where nobody's recording. That's why this story matters. Not because a CEO caught a racist in the act. Because it forces one uncomfortable question. What would I have done? If you were Terrence behind that desk, would you have spoken up? If you were a guest holding your phone, would you have pressed record? If you were standing 3 feet from Denise Moore while a man called her stupid in front of a crowd, would you have stayed silent? Drop your answer in the comments. Don't overthink it. Just tell me the truth. And if this story hit you somewhere deep, that tight feeling in your chest, smash that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. If you're not subscribed yet, come on now. You already know. Because justice doesn't always show up on its own. Sometimes, it's just one person deciding they refuse to look away. Be that person. Sheesh. Like, imagine thinking you're better than somebody just because of how they look? Bro, that's actually embarrassing for you, not them. Plain clothes? Different skin? So what? Character over appearance. Always. Don't let life teach you the hard way, bestie. Yo, like, someone's skin color? That tells you nothing about who they are. Nah, fruh. Judging people by their color is the biggest L you could ever take. We all bleed the same. We all dream the same. Respect ain't got a color code. Period.